Hello everybody, Gabe Dalporto here. We are at the Paul Reed Smith factory. We're going to take a tour of the factory. We're going to talk to Paul himself, learn a little bit about the company, its founding, some of the amazing stories behind the company, some of the amazing people behind the company.
Welcome to Inside the Noise by Guitar Center, where we interview the artists, the leaders, and the innovators in the music industry. I'm Gabe Dalporto, CEO of Guitar Center. Let's go inside the noise.
I want you to pick one of these, just touch one of them. Let's pull it down. They're in pairs.
Okay, these two.
Okay, here we go. The water makes the curl so you can see it better.
Oh, look at that just come out.
Isn't that cool? You know, this is welcome to private stock. So people come in here from, dealers come in here from all over the world, and they pick tops out, they pick necks out, they pick backs out, they pick fingerboards out, everything, and they fill out the ad. And this is what the guitar is, the beginning of what it's going to look like.
That's so pretty in here.
So they're going to take a shape like this and decide, do they want it this way, like that, and get that exotic curl to be as far down here as possible.
That's pretty right there.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And that's one you randomly picked. It wasn't something special for this room.
I was kind of nervous. Am I going to pick a good one?
Well, pick another one. Pick another one, seriously.
All right, let's go crazy. How about this?
Sure, why not? So you picked a Burl top. This is a form of cancer in the wood. Like you see a big ball in the tree,
yeah.
You know? Yeah, that's what this is. And they cut it out of that. Isn't that wild looking?
Oh my God.
You want to do one more just for fun? This is East Coast wood. This is what all Les Pauls are made of.
Try these.
Obviously, the paint is just to identify that it was graded as a private stock, but that's just stupid good. You come in, you pick your neck blank out, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that.
This is gorgeous.
It actually started with Larry Thomas from Guitar Center coming here and going through what I had called the private stash. And so that had a drug connotation, which I didn't intend. We called it private stock, and then it became private stock wood in the library, and then private stock in the vault.
Oh my God. Can you hear that?
So what you want to do is hold it at the 1/4 point.
1/4?
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, what's interesting, hold it up at the end, it doesn't do it.
You're right.
Isn't that
it's
wild?
the harmonics.
No,
yeah.
it's the way it rings.
But Paul Reed Smith,
That's sweet.
founder of PRS Guitars. We just had a factory tour. It was incredible. Just the level of thought that goes into everything from raw wood to finished product is incredible. The engagement with everybody who works here has been tremendous. So it's been really a phenomenal experience for me. Paul, I'd love if you could just tell us a little bit about why'd you found this company? Why does it exist?
You're going to get me real quiet because I've never told the story. Not really. So I wanted the guitars made. I had prototypes. And I had gone to Kramer at the time. They had the Floyd Rose patent in there. You know, it was part of their product line. So I made one of a PRS Custom 24 with a Floyd Rose on it, and it was in Musician Magazine. And that clearly wasn't going to happen. We tried. And then Al Di Meola had called Yamaha and said, I think you need to meet this young man. He's making me guitars. And I went to Hamamatsu and I showed him, and that didn't work out. And I had gone to Bill Command at Ovation. I had gone to piles of companies to get them to do it. And it became very clear that unless we did it ourselves, it wasn't going to happen. So I went on the road with 2 prototypes, which are in archives, and got $300,000 of the orders. A lawyer had told me, if you come back with $100,000 of the orders, I can get you the money to start your company. And I came back and put $300,000 of the orders on the table, and he was like, ah! And it ended up, that didn't work out. And I ran into another business kind of guru lawyer friend who said he thought he could help. And he wrote the prospectus for the limited partnership on our kitchen table here in Annapolis after looking at everything. And the partnership opened in March, and by April 1st, April 3rd, we closed it, and we raised $500,000, and we started, all the stuff I had drawn. I said, make it, ship it, make it, ship it. And so that it started coming. And we had a space over in Annapolis, and we started hiring people, and it was a million baby steps, millions. What you're looking at engineering-wise didn't happen in one day. It wasn't some grand plan to make Cogswell's Cogs like in the Jetsons, where you put the stuff in one end and it comes out the other. I always thought it was a good idea, but it wasn't going to happen. So it's been a really, really long journey. The thing that's fascinating about it is that so many people have joined, like Eric that's with us here today, to try to make nothing into something. I mean, it was kind of the American dream. Kid in a bedroom comes up with some good idea and, tries to start a company. What I have been told was that if you made something magic, the world would beat a path to your door. It's not true. The only thing that happens is you might get a 15-minute appointment to show somebody. And then after that, it's up to you. So, have you ever seen this Heath Ledger movie about jousting? It's called...
Yeah.
Huh?
Knight's Tale.
Knight's Tale. I'm sitting in the movie theater, and they have been throwing tomatoes at him and all this other stuff, And the prince walks in, and he pulls his thing back. He says, my word cannot be questioned. He comes from a royal ancient line. Let him joust. And he goes out and jousts without any armor. And they have to tie the thing to his arm, right? They lash it to his arm. And I'm sitting at the end of the movie, and the tears are streaming down my face. And my wife looks at me, she says, what's wrong with you? I looked at her, I said, that's what Carlos Santana did for me. He said, let him joust. He didn't help me joust. He said, let him joust. And so he had said, my word cannot be questioned. I'm telling you this stuff is good. And that was an endorsement. So I had Howard Leese and Al Di Meola and Carlos Santana. But Carlos Santana carries a lot of weight. I mean, you sit next to somebody on an airplane and you say, who plays your guitar? You say Carlos Santana. Worldwide, they know who you're talking about. So I had 3 endorsers, and we're able.
How long did it take you to get the Carlos Santana on board?
Three years of making him guitars.
Yeah.
The first guitar he said was an accident of God. Then the next one he said was an accident of God. The third one he didn't say anything. The fourth one, and by the fifth one he called me up. He says, "Okay, you're a guitar maker." In other words, the first one was an accident. It was that good. It was almost like somebody had written him a hit song and he didn't trust the next song to be a hit and the next song to be a hit. But after the fifth one, he goes, "Okay, you're in." He made me earn his trust. He didn't give his trust, which I thought was really grounded, dead on the money. The thing I like about Carlos and John Mayer and all these great musicians is they're kings. They don't decide they like something because somebody told them to like it. They decided they like something because they decided that's what they liked. And I accused Dennis Chambers of it once. I said, "You're a king. You only believe what you have come to the conclusion of." He goes, "That's right." And he was anointed. I mean, at 13, they invited him to be in James Brown's band, and his mother wouldn't let him go, which I think was a great story. But I like those kinds of people, that they are so knowing what they like and what they don't like, that they come to a conclusion on their own, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And he did that for me. Al did that for me. Howard Leese did that. Fascinating, actually. So it was a long step of millions of baby steps. The big moment was that we were spending the $500,000, and we had sent the original orders out. I didn't know if I'd get a reorder. That would have killed us. Mm-hmm. Okay, we started running out of money at about $100,000. It stopped, and the money going into the bank made it stable, and we were able to start building again. So there's a lot of people here that are trying to help turn nothing into something, whether it be Jack Higginbotham or Jamie or Stephanie or whoever. So there's two kinds of people in the world. One says, I got nothing to offer. No, kid, you come with me. No, I got nothing to offer. No, you come with me. And they sit him in a chair and make him do something. Then the other ones, some kids going, I got something to offer. And you got nothing. You got something to offer? No, you got nothing. Shut up and go home. I was in group 2. So I was more like Michael Jordan and Ken Griffey Jr. not being allowed on their baseball teams, right? Or their basketball team. That driver worked.
You know, for some people, being told no is the greatest motivator.
Yeah, well, I was one of them. They just didn't think there was anything there, but Carlos Santana didn't know that. John Mayer didn't know that. They were like, who are you? You know, can you show me what you got? I like that part. So you're talking about a huge group of people going in on, you ever read this old book, Stone Soup?
No.
Okay, there's an old book called Stone Soup where they put a huge pot in the middle of the town. They put stones in it. We've got soup. If only I had a little bit of meat. If only I had a little bit of vegetables. If only I had a little bit of potatoes. And the whole town starts bringing stuff and they make this immense food for 3 weeks, right? That's the way this place was built. People
I think I saw a little bit of your Stone Soup today.
Yeah.
As we were walking through the factory, met someone who had been here for 24 years. I met someone who'd been here for 32 years. And, you know, along the way, they had really innovated and pushed and contributed to the, you know, totality of what you see today. It was really, really interesting.
And one of those people was Paul Miles, who was running production and private stock. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never heard it put that way. I saw some of your Stone Soup today, but I like it. It's interesting. I've never even used that analogy except in this interview. You know, but you're asking me how it started. Look, if you want to get to the mall and you don't have a car, just start taking baby steps. Eventually you'll get there. Thousands of them.
So I don't think there's anything harder in this world than starting a company. And you eventually get
What about having a marriage?
Well, that is pretty hard too. But I've got
kids.
I've got a great wife.
I got a great wife
that supports me, and great kids, but they are hard. Yeah. But I imagine it wasn't a straight linear line. No. Like, can you think back to one moment where, like, was your hardest day?
I told you about one of them on the tour about building the wood library. We had no orders. That was really tough.
That was 2008.
To fight back, yeah. Another one where there were 400 guitars in the hall and we had no home for them. And I called Warren Essenu, who's the chairman of our board, and I said, we got a problem. And he said to me, he says, I don't even know how I know this, but I think you can muddle through. I think you can somehow put it together and get through it. And I believed him at his word and kept my head down and kept swinging, and eventually we got out of it.
And what do you think helped you through those moments?
What?
Those hardest moments, like what?
The people around me?
Yeah.
That's easy. He was saying, I think there's going to be light in the tunnel. Did you ever hear this story about these kids that get stuck in this cave and where the water level came up and they couldn't get out? Did you hear how they got them out?
No.
They drugged them all and put a tank on their back, and they were out, and they pushed the tank through first and pulled them through the hole, and they got them all out. You need to hear this story. It's unbelievable.
Who came up with that? Wow.
These genius divers.
Incredible.
That was unbelievable. And I hold on to that story. There's a way out of the cave. You got to find some way out. And they found a way out. Once they found the kids, they were like, oh, how are we going to get them out? Because they knew if they took the tank off them and they had to go through a hole and they were scraping their skin against all the rocks, they'd have freaked.
They would have panicked.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they drugged them all.
Wow.
And they all lived. It's just a stunning story. But to me, that's it. There's a saying in my world, which if you have a problem, you get on your hands and knees to look for a solution. It's down there somewhere. Just get down there and start searching. You know, I mean, what's your job? Your job is to find solutions when it doesn't look like there is one. My job is to find solutions when it doesn't look like there is one, right? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Guitar Center is a big, hard-to-turn animal.
It is. It's a little bit like the Titanic.
Yeah.
Not in that it's sinking, but that is to turn that thing is it takes incredible persistence and will
Okay, in the movie, they say go starboard, but they had to go port. They got it wrong. But only a sailor would know that. They said it wrong in the movie, which I thought was great. You know something? I can't tell you how many times I have interviewed the people around me about what they think are, you know, it's constant around here. We are always thinking out loud with, you know, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? What about this? So how was it done? It was done with incredibly determined teamwork of people that kept their head down and kept trying to find a way, because the market goes up and down. Market goes up. When COVID came, the market shot up. You know, in this period of time, people are afraid to spend money. It's a very interesting time. The political thing is, you know, maybe not the wrong thing to happen, but it certainly is being done in a way that makes people worry about holding on to their money.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm proud of the team that we have here. There are people looking after you on this whole trip, and there are people looking after me on this whole trip. And, you know, it's okay with me. It's okay that we have a big team of people. I introduced you to a bunch of people today that are teammates of mine, and you brought your teammates with you. So, I don't know. We're going to have a long talk today, right?
So there's various versions of this saying, but you know, I kind of like to think of it as execution eats strategy for breakfast. And you can have the best vision and the best strategy, and if you don't have the right people around you, you're going nowhere. And
that's true.
You know, I'm one person. I can't do anything by myself. I'm only as good as the people around me.
Well,
I think you feel that too.
Same thing for me. Look, somebody in this building did something the other day. I'll give you an example. One of our oldest employees came to me and says, "You got a problem." I said, "No." He goes, "No, you got a problem." I said, "Show it to me." So he showed it to me, and I said, "I don't think so." He goes, "No, you got a problem. You got a big problem." I said, "All right, you're a really good guitar player. You're really good ears. You find a solution." And we haggled back and forth and back and forth. Ended up, he was right. I needed to listen to what he was saying, and we ended up doing an engineering change notice, which is a way that everybody in the factory, all the managers, sign off on the engineering change so they can never say, "I forgot," or "You never told me," because I got their signature on it, right? And we changed it, and it's fixed. And it's fixed really well. You know, that's the kind of thing. You know, I'm 69 years old. I need these younger people. I'm one of the oldest people in the building. I need these younger people to come up and do what I've been doing here for a really long time, and things are coming along.
One of the things I really noticed today was just the continuous push for innovation, the continuous push for excellence. Like, tell me a little bit about when you look into the future, like, where do you want the company to be going? How do you want to push the industry forward?
Okay, when I'm quiet, my cogs are turning. First of all, I don't want happy customers. I want really happy customers. I want customers that, like, wow, that was really something. That's what I want. Whether I can get it or not, I don't know. I like being a wholesaler. You guys like being retailers. That's a different animal. I want really good instruments that are not what we call guitar-shaped objects. It looks like a guitar, but it's not doing its job in the studio, and it's not doing its job live, and it's not doing its job when you're just sitting around trying to enjoy playing it. Guitar makers settle down about my age at a formula, whether it be Ted McCarty or Leo Fender or Stradivari or Angelico or whatever. They all settle down in their late 60s to something and just keep doing the same thing. We experiment all the way to my age, and then, you know, then it's this thing of churning out the right thing. There's a story, and I don't know if it's true, but it's a story I've heard, that when Joni Mitchell heard Pave Paradise come out of the speakers, she went, oh shit, I got to play it the rest of my life. But that's okay. You know, I want what you've experienced today to continue. I showed you a prototype of something that's coming, and we're trying to initiate that in the other guitars as fast as we can. And we've got several models that have already been released to that. But in my world, I want it to sound like nothing else in a good way. And that's coming along fast. What I showed you today is a brand new tone. The Charcoal Phoenixes that we had that tone. The John McLaughlins that we had that tone. The NF53s have that tone. There's a lot of models that reflect what I showed you today, and I'm really pleased about it. It's interesting, you know, when we released the Hendrix amplifiers, I thought everybody wanted to sound like Hendrix. First person to pick one up was Mark Lettieri. And Snarky Puppy, he didn't want to sound like Hendrix, he wanted to sound like himself. They were using the amp because it was transparent to the way they played, and it was really good with pedals, which I thought was cool. Kenny Greenberg is playing with Kenny Chesney. He's got 2 of those amps at the Sphere. He's not trying to sound like Hendrix, he wants to sound like Kenny Greenberg, you know. It was fascinating to me. You know, the Hendrix tone is such a legend in our business, and the first time I played the amp that we opened at Paul Allen's museum, first time I heard the tone, I was like, it's more the amp than the guitar. Oh my God. It sounded like him. I was like, whoa. So to me, what do I want? I want the industry to be desiring and wanting really high level instruments that sound gorgeous and play really well and do everything you want to do. The pedal board isn't a thing to fix the sound of the guitar. The guitar is a thing to drive your pedal board. It's the other way around. So that's what I want. I know it sounds simple, but you asked.
So you birthed this company.
A whole bunch of us birthed this company.
True. There's never one person, but
all the investors, everybody. We all came together as a team.
Yeah.
You are correct. I was the one that had the original idea of maybe we could make these guitars. But these people that helped birth it didn't say, kid, go home. They said, okay, we'll help you.
How do you make sure PRS continues on for another 100 years?
Exactly the way we're doing it. We have schools here for the managers. We have schools here for the guitar makers. We have schools here for the employees. I had in-depth discussions with one of my employees today about him taking over some parts of it. I used to do all the trademark work. I've handed that over. I used to do a lot of things, and I'm handing it over one piece at a time. But it's not just, here, you have it. One of the worst things in the world is to try to manage something you don't understand. So you can't just hand it over. You've got to explain all the pieces and then do it in pieces. You know, I mean, we see it all the time on football teams where there was one running back and they've got another one in training. And finally, at some point, the one running back retires and then somebody, you know, comes out on the field, and whether they make it or not, that's up to them in a way. So I think the way we're doing it, look, somebody's going to fill the space. When a space is empty, somebody's going to fill the space. I mean, Guitar Center's had a lot of leadership, and you are running an S. You're filling that space right now. I mean, it's like me asking you, well, how's Guitar Center going to be around 150 years? That's not the way it's going to go. You're leading it to a new spot. That's the whole idea, right? So same thing for me. I'm not trying to control it. Somebody once said, and I went crazy, said, well, you can't control your kitchen sink. And I can't remember the name of the artist that said it, but I loved it because it's true. The kitchen sink's always a mess. Even when you clean it, it's a mess. It goes back to being a mess the next second, right? That's just the way it works. I don't try to control these people. I try to work with them to get to a common goal. I know this is a weird story, but I'll tell it to you. The holy grail of fly fishing is a thing called a permit. It's this big monstrous jack that eats crabs that's nearsighted. They're really hard to catch. And we were out fishing for permit and a world record size fish comes in and looks and flips over, looks down at my fly, puts his tail out of the water, wiggles it at me like, nah, 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 nah. Didn't take it, flipped up and took off. And everybody on the boat was really upset. And I was ecstatic. And they were like, what? It did, what? I said, I had a chance. All I wanted was a chance. That's all I want, Gabe. I just want a chance. It's I can't control the fish, but I had my chance. I had the right fly in the right place. He looked at it, he said, Natty, and he waved it off. Same thing with an artist. If I show Joe Walsh a guitar, I just want a chance that he tries it. What was stunning when I went to the Sphere as he was playing an SE that he bought with his own money that had nothing to do with it other than, what you saw today.
Uh-huh.
We had a chance. And very often, these new artists, these are going to come into your shop and they're going to try a guitar. I wasn't there to show it to them. I've got to do my job here. I just want a chance. I know that's a weird story, but they were upset and I was like, no, that was the greatest thing ever. I got a chance at something like that. That was awesome. And he literally put his tail out of the water. Nah, 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 I'm not going to eat. I was like, what's the coolest thing? I can remember it perfectly.
Well, if you keep doing what you're doing here, you're going to have an awful lot of chances. Paul, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Love the stories.
You brought your
Love
whole
what you
team
built
today.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I didn't have to pull them. They were dying to come. We're all fans of your work and your product, so we were excited to be
you're
here.
going to get a Maryland crab cake tonight. Do you eat seafood?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, you got crab cake coming. See you, everybody. Thanks for having us.
Thank you all.
Well, that was pretty amazing. What a mind-blowing experience. I just love the level of innovation here, craftsmanship, passion. Everybody I talked to was just so into it. And I'm going to leave you with one final parting shot, which is, this is a standard 24. This is the guitar that Paul made that he took on his first investor tour to start the company. And you can see it just looks an awful lot less like today's custom 24. But since then, there's just been an enormous amount of innovation as well. So that was a great tour. Thank you all, and have a good one.